Hello everybody, this is Krunal Nayak from My Australian Journey, and as you know that today our guest is very special, Mr. Naishad Gadani. You must have seen his introduction, and so please welcome. Hello Mr. Naishad, how are you today?
I'm very well, Krunal. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. A pleasure having you here with us, and thank you so much for getting some time from your busiest schedule. We know that you're super busy, and but I cannot thank you enough for joining our podcast today. So let's get started. So I've recorded an introduction for you, and which already has been played. But still, I want you to introduce yourself to our audience. So could you please introduce yourself?
Sure, absolutely, Krunal. So I'm what I call an engineer turned career counselor. So originally, I'm an engineer, mechanical engineer. I did my engineering back in 1997, many years back. I probably had a lot of hair by then. Then I came to Australia in 2007 as a migrant, and then after a couple of redundancies that I experienced, I then reinvented my career and became a career counselor. And since last 14 years, I've worked with hundreds of job seekers who are looking for work, who are long-term unemployed, or who want to change careers. And that's what I've done for last 14 years now. I'm also what we call a visualizer or a doodler. I doodle and draw sketches, particularly in the context of careers and employment and jobs. And I've recently published a couple of books, which is the one is called The Big Book of Career Doodles, and another one is the Your Career Journal. So that's about me. But finally, I got to talk to you on this medium, which is absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your introduction and especially your books. Let's talk about that. I've been to the ceremony where you were inaugurating the books. So could you please tell more to our audience about your books, please?
Absolutely, Krunal. So I think the doodling is a new word for many of us. I also did not know about doodling. I only know drawing. Now, I'm not a great painter or an artist, but I started doodling. Doodling is more of an art of aimless drawing that you.
Right.
I'm pretty sure when we studied in school and universities, we would draw benches and we would draw water bottles and we would sometimes draw our friends' photos and our teachers' photos and everything. Right?
Yeah.
Those are not particularly with a view of precise drawing, but to be able to communicate that no, this is a table, this is a chair, that's it. So I started doing that back when I was in during the COVID times as self-care activity. And then after completing couple of courses on that one, I started to experiment with my knowledge of career and my knowledge of employment and job seekers and working with them. I started to experiment with some of those concepts. And that started to really kind of engage and entertain a lot of people on social media. So I drew a lot of those sketches, and then last year I decided to publish a book, which got dual purpose. One is for career counselors like myself who can use a different medium to communicate, and the second one is for people who want to build their own career, who are looking to a different way to think about their career. So that was the whole idea, and then I approached around 50 people across the world for them to pick up a particular sketch and write their reflection or anecdote about that. So that's how the book actually came into fruition. So it's got 87 different sketches or doodles on various concepts, and there is relevant content written by career practitioners, coaches, and professionals across the world. So it is a very rich tapestry of knowledge, but it is also very light reading. So you don't feel like you're reading a huge book. It's like a recipe book. You can pick up a page, read something, and then after a week, you can pick up something else. So that's how it works.
Yep, it's amazing book. I've gone through it and I loved it. Loved it. So those who are seeking career and motivation to find a good career in Australia, for them I think it's the best guide.
That's
And we
correct.
cannot thank you enough for writing such an amazing book. It was amazing. Thank you so much for that. So what is the main purpose of that book and who does it help? Could you please elaborate on that?
Sure, absolutely. So there are two distinct, group of people that it helps. So one is people like myself, career practitioners across the world, who want to use some new tools or who want to communicate a complex concept into an easily understandable way. So
Mhm.
that's what that book is used for. So they can use that as tools. Give you an example. One of the leading university bought few of my books, and the career practitioner called and said that she wants to use these sketches as part of a workshop that
Mm.
she's delivering. And she said that once the workshop was done, I think she find the students were more engaged and they were able to also pick up many learnings just because the sketch was done it in a very simple and easy to understand way, but at the same time it also made their action much easier, that yeah, I'm going to take this particular action.
Mm.
So that's what I see one distinct use of that. The second one is for people like yourself and myself, people who want to grow their career, and sometimes it's difficult to go to a career coach or career counselor, but they can pick up this and understand a concept in a very simple fashion, and then start to use some of the things that I talk about through those sketches. So that's the two distinct kind of what do we say, audiences for this. And another thing is also I've noticed that a couple of my colleagues are also neurodiverse. They have got intellectual and also learning disability. And they
Mm.
found that this book really helped them to understand some of the concepts because it's not a written word, it's a very
Mm.
visual understanding. And that really kind of helped them. So, which I'd never thought that how that will turn out to be, but it
Yeah.
is also taking a lot of people from neurodiverse background are also taking a huge interest in this one too.
That's excellent, excellent. And it's really helpful for those who are really, in that particular need, that when they want to figure out the exact meaning of their career and all that. So, yep, it's
Exactly.
it's a great book, and we wish you the best of luck, and we
Thank
expect
you.
more books like that from you, that can guide the community and help people who are in need. So,
Absolutely.
excellent. Thank you. Excellent work for that. And so, tell us about this, like being an engineer
Yeah.
and now a doodler and now a book writer and a career counselor, how you transit your careers between
Mm.
these two jobs?
Yeah. So when I finished my engineering, I did core engineering work back in 97, 98. My first job was as a manufacturing engineer. But Krunal, it was probably within a 1 month, I realized that that is not something that I want to do. Uh,
Mm.
I did not that the work isn't great, but it wasn't meant for me. I
Mm.
did not like the harsh conditions of working on machines and everything. And I felt maybe I'm not built for that. I'm built for something else. And I
Excellent.
slowly graduated towards sales, marketing, business development from 98 onwards. So I was quite good with that because I felt that I have got a natural ability to build rapport, understand other people, and also work through them. So that's what I carried in Australia. But I did not succeed in my first couple of roles back in 2007 to 2009. I
Mm.
lost a couple of my jobs. So 2009 was a watershed moment that I had to decide what do I do now with my career because I've not been successful in first two roles. Though they were redundancies, but I still felt that I was not probably great at my work.
Mm.
So that's when I started to dig more about what would be a great career for me. And I met, serendipitously, I met a couple of people who worked in employment careers. That means that they worked with people who are on social welfare benefits.
Mm.
and they loved that job. So I digged into more, and I found that that's probably a good career for me to begin. And that's how started my career into employment services. And
Mm.
I think the a lot of people ask me that what really kind of helped me to transition. So one is, Krunal, that I also took time off. That means I did not work for 2 months
Oh.
to figure out what I want to do, right? Not that every day I was kind of going into a chanting any my mantras to find out what do I want to, because I was talking to a lot of people
Right.
and reaching out, connecting with them, attending a lot of events. So I
Mm.
found out more and more about different kind of careers. Then I chose this career because it kind of aligned with who am I, what kind of work do I enjoy. It is still to help people from move from A to B. So I really
Mm.
liked that. So
Okay.
since 2009, I started to work with people on social welfare benefits, then worked with people who have developed, who has got workplace injuries or transport accident injuries, help them to move, change their career, and also worked with indigenous employment program, multicultural employment program, law school, to career counseling role, to localized employment program role. So I've done heaps of work around careers and employment.
That's great. And I think I see that today's podcast is going to be very exciting for our audience who are new migrants and seeking for jobs, and they struggle how to find a new job. So
That's
and
correct.
especially with this current Australian environment, because the
Yeah.
life is getting harder, expensive and difficult. So how a migrant can find a better work and how can shape their career. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be asking a lot of question about it, but
Sure, please.
let's get started with this. So first of all, how you as an individual feel about living in Australia?
I think it's a fantastic country, no doubt about it. There are a lot many commonalities. If you're coming from subcontinent, Krunal, you'll find a lot of commonalities here. That means that it's obviously cricket is probably one of the biggest commonality that you would find. That people understand that. Secondly, is that I found that Australian culture itself is not too competitive. It's not kind of pushing you that,
Go
right?
go
So you
go
can have
career
a
route. Yeah, yeah.
exactly, it's kind of you take it at your own pace. There's no You're not kind of continuously living in a very competitive environment.
Mm.
I've also found that Australian work culture, society culture is quite welcoming too.
Mm.
They are unlike Americans, who come across as cheap on the shoulder. I found that Australians are easy to deal with. They are not particularly, you can go and chat with anybody. You can be standing on a tram stop, right?
Yeah.
And you can strike a conversation with somebody next to you, and that's normal. It's
Yeah.
not unusual, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I've found about the culture. It's also a straightforwardness around it. If I can do the job, I'll say yes. If I can't, I'll say no to that. So there's a lot of transparency, a lot of frank and honest discussion around work. And I found that the community is also quite welcoming. They've embraced in last few years, embraced the multicultural aspect,
Mm.
as well in the community, in sports, to in workplaces as well.
Great, great, excellent. So basically, you are loving Australia, living in
Absolutely.
Australia. Great, good to know that. Okay, so tell me about this. How you ended up in Australia? You from India and you migrated long time back, but out of other countries, why you choose Australia at that point? And what is like how was the selection process worked for you?
So I think I had a couple of options. One was the USA option, where I find that if I have to go there, that either I got to go on a student visa, number one, because there is no, I can't really get there. There's no migration program that they have.
Correct,
In
correct.
Australia being somebody that I had a few of my friends here, so that really kind of helped me to make that decision, having a chat with them, understand, and obviously that offered the pathway to me. So I can apply as a migrant. Once I live here for some time, I can apply to become a citizen. So there was a kind of a logical laid out pathway for me. So that made it, very, very easy for me. Canada is probably too cold, honestly. Even I find, living in Melbourne also, we find it extremely
Little
cold.
cold, yes,
Canada,
yes. Yeah.
Canada would be completely lifeless for me because it's just way, it's just way too cold. So I think
Yeah.
that was very crystal clear. I never considered UK because I did not know much about UK, anyways.
So out of USA, Canada, and Australia, you chose Australia just because of the vibrancy and the consistent pathway for settlement, right? That's great.
Exactly.
That's great. And it is, like that's how the Australia works. So it's amazing country to be in. So considering this, let me explain. What year you came to Australia?
2007.
2007, and you came as a permanent resident. You
That's
didn't come here
correct.
to study, right? And how was the immigration process look like at that point? Was it easy? You faced difficulties? What are the challenges for the immigration process at that point?
No, in fact, I did not. I think from memory, it took around 1 year from the time that I submitted my competency development CDR
CDR, yeah.
until I get my medical. I think it took around 1 year. I think the time kind of the time delay happened because of my IELTS because
Mhm.
I did not score what the requirements were, and I had to resit the exam. At that time, you had to wait for 3 months to resit the exam. So I think
Mhm.
that was the delay of 3 months in the whole process. But I think from the start to the end, I think it took around 1 year, and was quite easy.
Easy?
Obviously, every time I remember that once you got your file number and everything, then we have to send like kind of a blank email to that particular
Yes.
email
Email
address, and
address
it would say that which year's file or which
is
file that we are
they
kind
are
of
processing right now. Yeah.
processing the right now. So that's the kind of curiosity every week
Yeah.
that
Let's send
but
an email.
once the but I think once they allocated a case officer, it went pretty smooth, like straight away within couple of months we had our invitation. And at that time, I only selected Melbourne, although my visa wasn't restricted to Melbourne.
Mhm.
But I actually landed in Brisbane because that's what my friend was.
Okay.
And
Right.
I stayed in Brisbane for 3 days and came to Melbourne for interview. And
Right.
then I never went to Brisbane. So yeah.
All right, so let's talk about that comparison between Brisbane and Melbourne. People usually compare Sydney and Melbourne because two metro cities. But what's your opinion on Brisbane and Melbourne?
I don't know because I lived there only for three
Only
days.
3 days. That's
Only
it.
thing,
Yeah.
so I remember I landed on there on I don't remember, but I think I landed there on Wednesday or somewhere. And I
Mhm.
think Saturday morning I left and came to Melbourne because I already scheduled a couple of interviews in Melbourne.
Mhm. Right.
And then
So
never
you
went
didn't
back.
live. You didn't live too much in there.
3 days.
Okay, cool. And then, can you please share some memorable early days struggle and settlement things in Australia? So you came by yourself or you came with family?
No, first of all, I came by myself because our thinking was to once I get a job, then my wife and my then 2-year-old will join me here.
Right. So and
Yeah.
and when you get into here, how was the job finding? Was it easier? Like you said, you got some interviews in 3 days, which is pretty amazing. And how did that went?
No, I think it wasn't easy, and I guess that it isn't still easy for a new migrant to get into that. Though I think there is heaps of knowledge that is around there for migrants. I think migrants do have the advantage of LinkedIn and Facebook and WhatsApp and all these social media stuff, but also that there's a lot of depository of knowledge available about finding a first job in Australia. Back
Mhm.
in 2007, we didn't have smartphone, right?
Nothing.
We didn't have we did not have phones or anything
LinkedIn.
to help us go from A to B,
Yeah.
right? We had what we call mailways, which was like a
Yes.
thick book, and you have to really kind of go through everything and say, "Oh, where do I go from here to here?" And then you have to turn the page. So it
Oh
was
my
quite
goodness.
quite quite difficult, but at the same time, I lived around close to the city, so I think that was the advantage where I did not have to worry about commuting as much because I can walk to Flinders Street for 15 minutes, and then I can go from there anywhere, right?
Mm.
Obviously, living with my wife's cousin and his friends was a great experience because they were all boys. It's like living in engineering hostel all over
Hostel.
again. Um, but in a foreign country, that meant that you still have to do bloody everything else, cook
Yeah.
and clean and go for grocery shopping and everything. But I think what struck to me initially was the way these guys worked, Australians. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, and people are running and people are jogging and people are going to work. And that for for first 1 or 2 months, Krunal, I could not match that energy. Like I felt it is just beyond me. Like, how can you have coffee at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, and cafes are open to? So what is going on? I think language was probably the biggest challenge. Not,
Mm.
I think I spoke. I was doing a lot of presentation back in India in English too, but I felt that I was still unable to really understand their
Mm.
nuances in
The exact
in
accent.
communication. I think it was difficult. Having said that, even so, what I did was I got a book of slangs at that time, which was a great one. I bought a $10 book of slang or Aussie slang. That was really good, and I think I would have read that for 2 more years because
Oh.
it was really good. I think that it just gives you that Australian day-to-day language like fair income.
Mm.
That, and I remember I asked one of the guy that, oh, I want to go and visit this place, and how far where do I go? He said, yeah, just go to the Monash and just down the road from there. And I said, what do you mean by down the road?
Down the road.
Like, and then I read on in the slang, it says that when somebody says down the road, that means go straight. Now, that could be 5 kilometers, it could mean 200 kilometers. That's what
Correct.
people say, down the road.
Down the
That's it.
road.
You know, I think language was one challenge. Then obviously, navigating the writing applications and talking to people and how it works was another minefield. And I'm sure that your listeners or you would have experienced the same thing. It's nothing unique to me. And I landed up my first job after 2.5 months
Wow.
into. And the first day of my job, I was living in South Melbourne, and my job was in Dandenong.
Oh,
And I remember, Krunal, for that particular job, for the interview, I walked for 1.5 hours because
one and a
when
half
I landed
hour.
up on Dandenong, yeah, because at that time, not having any electronic things with like phone or anything,
Right.
like smartphone or anything. I remember when I went for the interview, I landed in Dandenong and it says Hammond Road, and it was Hammond Road is right in front of me. And I thought, bingo, that's a lottery. Then
Yeah.
I realized I have to go to 447 Hammond Road, which was hour and a half walk.
Oh.
So I walked there. And my boss asked me after the interview, he said, how did you come here? And I said, I walked. He said, what do you mean by you walked? I said, no, I meant that I walked from Dandenong station to here. So you're kidding me. I said, no, seriously, because there is no bus that comes at this point.
Yeah.
So he came to drop me off to the station
After interview.
after the interview because he said, look, mate, you can't because it's 10 minutes drive for
Drive.
me.
10 minutes drive. Yeah.
And then when I started the job, I called a day before and I said, look, you'll have to come to pick me up at Dandenong station because I can't get there. I can be there an hour before or half an hour late. He said, don't worry, come to the station, I'll pick you up. He came as soon as we drove in the office and he looked at the car next to me, next to his car, and said, that's your car. And I said, yeah, sure. I didn't take that seriously. I said, yeah, sure. Who's going to give me this brand new car on the first day of the job, right? That's
Right.
ridiculous. So I go to his office. He shows me around. He gives me a laptop. He gives me diary and other stuff, and he gives me the car keys. And I'm freaking out inside. I've never driven the car in Australia, though I knew all. I had the
The
learners.
rules and
So I
regulations.
said, he doesn't, and in my head, I'm freaking out, thinking that he doesn't think that I can drive this today, right? 5 o'clock, Krunal, I was still, and he said, come on, let's go. And I said, okay. And, as soon as it was a brand new Holden Commodore, it's like a huge car. I've never driven that car before, right?
Yeah.
In India, I've driven Maruti, which is probably half the size. So I'm sitting in this car, right? And I said, there are no gears for manual gears. And I called my friend. I said, hang on, man, I can't see gears. And he says, Naishad, can you see R, D, N? I said, yeah. He said, just put it on D and drive.
Drive, that's
I
it.
said, okay.
Go.
So my boss opened. He said, look, you drove car in India. I said, yeah, no, I did. He said, that's right-hand drive, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I drove from Dandenong to South Melbourne with my heart pumping and straight onto the Monash freeway, and it started raining.
Oh
And I
my.
said, God, what's going to happen right now? I knew which exit do I have to take. And my boss said, look, just follow me. I'm going to go on Turak Road exit and you're going to take Kingsway exit. My eyes were completely fixated at the radio plate of my boss's car. And I'm freaking out in this car. And I got home and my friend said, oh, how did you come? He said, no, I came in car. I said, whose car? He said, this car company gave me. I said, you're kidding me. That's like after that, I found out that car was around $50,000 car. Like a big, for them, because it was a brand new. I think the car speedometer rate 35 kilometers. So it was a brand new car. So that was my really,
Oh my God.
kind of
That's
that
amazing
experience.
Yes.
So I think that was quite scary on the first day of the job, but eventually you get over that and then you kind of move on from there. Yeah.
No, amazing, great experience. But yes, who gets the car on first day of their employment? You must be the lucky migrant.
Not knowing.
Yeah, and without knowing, yes, exactly. Surprise, complete surprise. Excellent, excellent. Hope everybody got employer like yours. So yeah, best of luck, everybody. Thank you. So let's say if someone is trying to move to Australia and thinking to immigrate to Australia or come here, like as you came in to find a job, employment, basically, not to study. What's your advice for them?
I think they got to do their research. Now, what I mean by research is Australia, we've got one of the things is that the job titles can sometimes confuse you. So a lot of the time when people look for similar jobs, those kind of job titles may not even exist in Australia.
Correct.
That's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
I think research is paramount. You got to find out that where you could position yourself. Like, if you are a manufacturing manager, getting a manufacturing manager straight away job might be difficult. So what could be a step down, yet you are going in the right direction. So what could be a job that you could take, which will still give you an entry into Australian market, and you'll be able to scale the kind of career later. So I think getting to know what is the best position for you is incredibly important, and that's why don't go by everything what the job title is. It's a good beginning, though it could be misleading to it may not get you. Like I remember one of the person that I worked with, his position was vice president. And in India, he worked in a large multinational bank, nationalized bank. In size of the Indian, in context of that, there'll be 500 vice presidents in that bank, right?
Right.
In Australia, when he was looking for vice president, it's a very senior role, right? So people will see vice president on his resume and will never call him.
Never call.
Because so you have to really be careful about where you're positioning yourself. And positioning yourself requires first and foremost to understand the market. Talk to people who work in similar industries, similar work, similar kind of an IT, or similar companies, to get a sense of where to position yourself. Because I believe that sharpening the saw before you start to axe is very, very important. You really have to sharpen that to make sure that you are ready when the tree comes, you're ready to chop that tree. So I think that's number one. Secondly, is to know Australian culture as much as possible. And I said Australian culture, not necessarily work culture.
Sure.
Culture as a larger context, that if you understand how Australians are, it will help you in your interviews when you talk to them, when you go and start a work, it will definitely help you. So in order to do that, either you go and watch, be part of a sports. If you love cricket, they're always looking for players. Australians, if you want to learn anything about Australian culture, is the sports is the biggest one. You
Right.
go and watch their footy games or soccer games or the cricket games. They are very, very competitive,
Hmm.
extremely competitive.
Intense, right?
But once they finish their friends, they will go out and have beer
Yeah,
immediately. It's like nothing has happened. Whatever happens on the ground. You go out, have beer, sit down with each other, have a chat, and go home. Right?
that's
So
it.
they are very competitive, yet they can keep them separate. That
Yeah,
they are
without
not
hard
kind of
feelings, like, they don't keep it
exactly,
everything in the heart. Yeah,
exactly. They will give you very hard time
yeah.
on the field. They are
Mm.
also at the work also. They will give you very hard time. But after 5 o'clock, as we know, they like to go and chill out, have a
Let's go to
beer,
pub. Let's
sit
go to
down
pub.
for coffee and everything else. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Another one is also to get oriented yourself to think about volunteering. Now, not necessarily volunteering just in the traditional sense, but also, I know that few people go and volunteer at a school, for example. They've got
Mm.
something to offer, or teaching kids, or to go and do the standard volunteering, right? Or to also think about going and mentoring a student on a particular skill that you have. So there are various things that you could do to kind of immerse yourself into Australian culture that I believe is very, very important.
Mm.
Last thing I would say, Krunal, is that take time.
Yeah,
Don't
important.
my friend, when I landed in Brisbane in August, next day morning before he went to work, he said, Naishad, this is where you apply TFN, this is the job site, this is what you do, this is what you do. Next day morning, I was pumping out applications, not even knowing
What you
whether
do?
what kind of like, where do I fit in, what jobs am I applying for, like, is my resume good or not, right? Knowing nothing, I started to do that. I think it is important for people to take a break and
Yeah,
say, I'm just coming here, I'm going to give 3 to 4 months to myself to find a work. So make sure that you've got enough. I always feel that you've got enough financial wherewithal for first 3 to 4 months, so that you are giving yourself best chance to
mm.
find a work that aligns to your skills, rather than getting into work which is anything. Because
Mm.
I was told to get into any work when I came here, but I said no, I don't want to do that. Though I struggled, but I continued to find the work that is aligned to my skills, rather than finding anything.
And that's great. That's really a good tip for all those migrants who are trying to get into the job market, and that's really useful tips. And could you please elaborate a little bit more about networking, or what is the importance of networking in getting your first job, building your career?
Absolutely. So, networking is not nothing new. I think it's a different, word. We all have got networks back in our country, starting from kinder to schools to universities, through our cousins and through our social network. We usually amass a huge network.
Yeah,
Obviously, coming to a new country, we are starting from ground up. We don't have as much social capital as we enjoyed back in our home country. So that means that in order for you to build that amount of social capital, it's going to take time. It won't
yeah.
happen immediately, right? Um, so you got to give yourself some time.
Yeah.
But there are simple things that you could do to expand your network. That is, I found a lot of us when we come from subcontinent, we always look for temples. We'll always look for religious institutions that we feel that we are at home.
Yeah.
So whichever, if that's something that you like, or if you're spiritual, whatever that you kind of followed back in your country, I'm sure that you'll be able to find some counterpart of that in Australia.
In Australia.
That's
Yeah.
a good place to begin. And in if you go to those religious places, spiritual places, you'll find that people are similar. They got similar interest. So you'll be able to slot yourself in. Secondly, is that there are, meetup.com is probably my go-to place about finding meetups which are aligning to your professional skills or even sometimes personal skills too. If you're, let's say, if you're into agile project management, there will be plenty of meetups in agile project management where you can go hang out, talk to people, interact with them who are agile practitioners. Or let's say that you you love hiking. You'll be able to find a hiking group too, where
Yeah.
people have that common interest of hiking. The idea for you is to put yourself in situations where you can expand your network.
Correct.
And that's very important. We also have to value that's accidents and taking chances as well. We feel that if I go into this meeting or networking group, I must come out of with something positive. It may not happen.
Absolutely.
It just might. I'll tell you a story of a client of mine many years back, Krunal, and I told him about this in networking and what you got to do and talk to people and things. And he once calls me and says, Naishad, I had 3 interviews by just going to the local bar. I said,
Wow.
oh, tell me more. I'm just curious. What kind of
Tell me
job was
more. I
it?
want to know
Was
as
it
well.
like was it a bartending job? Or, no, he said no, accounting job. I said, tell me more. And he said, look, I live by myself. On every Saturday, Sunday, Saturday afternoon, I would go, and he loved beer. So he said, I would go to the beer closest bar, and then people are sitting and I'm having beer, I'm talking with them. He said, that's how people ask me a lot of questions. What do you do? What kind of jobs are you looking for? He said, I ended up having 3 interviews just out of visiting the bar. Now, I'm not suggesting that all of
To go to bar.
to go to the bar. What is more important that he was putting himself in situations where he can talk to people who are unknown to him.
Right.
That is the point, right? People different. As I said, Australians are very friendly. I'm sure that if you go to supermarket, for example, and you are waiting for the checkout, right? And you can strike conversation with somebody next to you.
Yep.
And you know what? You can always start with the weather is crap, isn't it today? Or who do you follow? You follow Brisbane Lions. Wow, amazing, right? So there are so many things that you can start the conversation with. So that's one thing that I suggest. And also that there are, if you feel that your language isn't up to scratch, and if you feel that I need to brush my language, there are English conversational classes also available, right? Most of the councils have got some form of
Great
those
classes. Yes.
opportunities where you can go and practice those
Yep.
things.
Yep. Yep. You're right.
So
Absolutely.
I think it is incredibly important. Obviously, you using LinkedIn to Facebook, are also important in context of this. That you got to connect, but also then try to see. In Australia, we got coffee culture.
Perfect. So that sounds good. Like it's so basically you're giving us the way how to network with people, right? So these are the ways that our audience can use to make their own network and whatever their niche is, whatever their spot, their skills and skill set matches. So yeah, excellent. These are beautiful ways to get in. So now let's talk about settlement. So when you come to Australia, when you get a good job, and then you just trying to explore Australia. So first thing we do is like we love Australia and we just want to go out. So out of these beautiful Australian landscapes, what are your favorite outdoor activities, and can you share some wow moments when you first arrived in Australia and all that?
I think my wow moment was when I traveled on Great Ocean Road for the first time. That was still a very beautiful moment for me. I love driving, but I've never driven on such a beautiful landscape ever before. That
Yeah.
was really wow moment for me. Second one was the wow moment, or my outdoor activities as I do is cricket season is about to start,
Yeah.
and my both the kids played cricket. My younger one still plays cricket, so I think Friday, Saturday, and Sundays are particularly I look forward to that because that's the time where I can go and also meet with other parents and other dads and sit and watch beautiful game of cricket for 3 hours and come back home and discuss that again. And then next day morning you start that again. I think
Wow.
that's really beautiful. Having a dog really has helped because
Oh,
I can
really?
take
Wow.
my yeah, I think dog really, made our family complete.
Oh, really?
Australian family. you gotta
Nice.
have,
Nice.
you gotta have, you, your partner, two kids, and a dog.
And a
I think
pet.
that it
Yeah.
become, it really helps. I never was quite not afraid of dogs, but I never enjoyed.
Hmm.
But I think since the time that we got our dog when he was 8 weeks old, so that has been really, great moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, what else? Yeah, when we bought our home was also another beautiful, which is a really lifelong cherishing moment for anybody who buys
Anyone.
their first home.
First of
So yeah.
That's great, amazing moments. And could you please share some happy moments where you proud to live in Australia? So like you feel like, okay, thank God I'm in Australia.
Yeah, I think when I first time launched my book launch was a proud moment, Krunal, because I never considered I always considered that I can write, kind of publish a book. I think publishing book was the easiest part, but what do I come up with? What ideas do I bring into that was very proud moment. Secondly was the I did a program called Australia's Got Fresh Talent, which
Mhm.
was a pitch night for migrants and students,
Wow.
and which ended up getting a lot of traction and people got jobs out of that.
Great.
So that was quite innovative and really great program for me. And yeah, these are the things that I can think of.
Thanks.
That's great. No, still amazing moments, like you can't, forget forever, right? These are the most beautiful moments, buying
Absolutely.
first
Yeah.
home and having these most beautiful, valuable moments in your life. So,
Yes. Yeah.
apart from these happy moments, let's say if what's your opinion on okay, let's talk about your book. You just raised the
Sure.
point that
Sure.
which pointed out. So in your career so far, being career counselor, how many people you helped in finding a right career?
I don't count because it's very difficult, but I think I would easily feel over 1,000 people so far that I would have either helped them to find jobs or either help them to change career and everything. So around 1,000 I would
Around
feel.
1,000. Wow,
Yeah.
that's great. That's a huge number in Australia. It's like considering this
Yeah.
population, it's a huge
Yeah.
number.
Yeah.
And now, can you, if someone wants your help, and if they
Sure.
want to reach out to you,
Sure.
how they can reach out to you?
So I think best way for me them to reach out to you is to go on my LinkedIn and send a connection request and ask them what help do they need.
Okay,
Simple way.
great.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. So I will give the link of
Please.
Nashad's profile in the description. So anybody who wants to contact him for career counseling or for career guidance and how to progress ahead, then please contact Mr. Nashad Gadani. Thank you for that, Mr. Nashad. And moving on to our next question. What's your opinion on current state of Australian job market? So let's say a lot of people are coming due to the COVID. We had
Yeah.
problems, and we haven't had employees, and now we are getting back to it because a lot of migrants came in. So what's your view on the current job market?
So I think that current job market is tight right now. It's not as easy as it was probably 6 months back. And that is because of the A lot of state government and federal government find themselves in huge amount of debt. That meant that they are also doing a lot of tightening. That means that a lot of jobs which relied on, a lot of industries that relied on, government funding or government funded programs, that has been impacted. Although the tech skills are highly skilled, like engineers and accountants, senior accountants to IT specialists, still are able to find work. Regional places are still kind of struggling to attract people, because of probably they're not as many people are coming into. I think since last 1 year we have started to see a lot of international students have now started to come to Australia, and migrants have also started to come. So to summarize, it's still a tight market in my view.
Yeah, great.
Good to know that. And so you are a career counselor. You help people to do find a better jobs and careers. So what's your view on entrepreneurship? So someone do not want to do a job, but they want to go into this entrepreneurship space. What's your view on that?
I think there are plenty of opportunities. And if you are a migrant, there are so many pre-accelerator programs that is being offered, that you can undertake to develop an idea or to develop a product or something. I think starting a business in Australia is very, 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 very simple. It's
Oh,
not difficult at all. You
great.
can get your own ABN straight away. You don't need to do anything else, right?
No.
You can find people who can help you immediately too. But if you want to really kind of, develop an idea while you're working, I think side hustle is becoming huge. A lot of people are having 2 jobs or 3 jobs,
Yeah.
and doing something on the weekend, or running their own passion on the weekend too. So it's not difficult in my view,
Mm-hmm.
to start. And there are programs, as I said previously, there are a lot of entrepreneurship programs are also being offered, such as if you're in Victoria, I think Launch Victoria is the agency to go to if you are interested in starting up your business. Launch Victoria would be a place. I'm sure that every other state will have some or the other support service available for people to start their own business.
Perfect, perfect. That's really good. And how is the entrepreneurship you see as, let's say someone wants to be an entrepreneur, and someone wants to do a job. If they're confused between those two careers, or someone transiting from job to entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship to job, in your opinion, what is better, a job or an entrepreneurship?
I think it depends on how much debt that you have, honestly, Krunal, right? So how much risk can you take, right?
Right.
In everyone is so different, Krunal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people will put everything on the line and said, I'm not going to go to a job and I'm just continue to push through the business idea that I have. Well, good luck with that. No problem with that. And some of, like myself, that I've always had two things. I've never went into full-time entrepreneurship because it hasn't grown big, and I still have got my financial obligations to fulfill, so I can't neglect them too. So to answer your question, it comes back to how much financial resources you have, what's your risk appetite, and if what sort of business idea that you have, and how much big can you get, and how quickly can you get through
Mm.
that. So
Yeah.
that's what I would ask. But I would still encourage people to think about, doing something by yourself, even though in a small capacity, even though in a very, very small project. But I think it's still a good idea, because I feel Australia rewards people who want to start their things, and it's not difficult at all.
Yeah. Great.
And could you please list some of, you already said something that yes, you have to be ready for these things, but still, could you please elaborate what are the challenges the Australian entrepreneurs faces in recent days?
I think the biggest challenge, it depends on what kind of business, what kind of idea that you have. Is to raise money. Whether do
Mm.
you go to Australian investors to raise money, and how do you raise money, to go to a private equity firm or to go to a venture angels seed funds. But I guess that if you are part of a pre-accelerator program, I think that might lead you into into those funding opportunities too, that who can really fund those ideas. um, I think that then another thing would be that Australia is too far from a lot of places too. So if you want to import stuff, that's going to be a big
Challenge,
investment for you.
challenge.
Like for example, I was thinking of developing a product which I was just still in the prototype phase. But if I go to China, to Alibaba, to procure that product, even though the product itself is cheap, the shipping is going to kill the whole
Mm,
thing. Like
mm,
the book that I wrote, right? If I go to India to get that book printed, it's going to cost me more, not
mm,
less.
mm.
Right. So I think
Because of
that
the
that
shipping charges. Yeah.
exactly. So I think that's the biggest challenge that we have. That means that you got to be innovative enough to think about what can I do in here to develop that product, or a prototype or something, and
Mm,
then thinking about, okay, how can I mass produce this? This is just an idea around the prototype ones,
mm.
um, a physical one. But if your if your game is within,
Digital
what we
space.
say, IT
Digital
space and
space.
everything else, then I don't think so. You should worry about that. There are enough avenues within Australia or outside of Australia for you to go and explore.
And we can see Canva is one of the Australian startup, which has
Absolutely,
flourished like anything. So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. If you're in digital space, there's a lot of possibilities, but physical
Yes.
space, you have to be little careful, right?
No, that's great
Yeah.
piece of advice. So yeah, perfectly described and perfectly executed. So what's your opinion about current Australian situations, political situations? So let's say right now the inflation is going high, rentals are going high, the groceries are like hard to survive for so many families. So what's your view on that? Is it real, or we are still, worst is yet to come?
I'm not an economist, honestly. I can't. I've stopped looking at the grocery prices yet. I'd say it is concerning, and that's why I think people need to think about what can you do to either reduce your expense or make more money
Hmm,
to make sure that you are able to cover. So I think doing something on the side hustle, everything will play a bigger role, not a lesser role, following from it. Honestly, there are things, Krunal, that is beyond our control. We can talk until cows come home,
hmm.
and yet we will not be able to impact anything. Yet you and I still have to pay for the increased interest rate. We can't say
Keep
that
that.
it's not going to work, right? So I think there is a limit to what we can influence, and that's beyond our limit, in my view.
All right, so great. Thank you for that, and it's amazing answer as well. So let's get into the success part now.
Yeah.
So, what is the biggest achievement you consider that you have done? You've already mentioned that the writing a book and publishing it, but still, any other achievements that you want to list out, that you consider them biggest achievements after moving to Australia?
Yeah, I think two things. The one in particular was is the transition that I did, from being into a sales engineering role to something very different, something that I will probably keep enjoying it. So that's
Hmm.
number one. And secondly is that when I won an award, called Career Practitioner of the Year Award from the Career Development Association of Australia.
Wow.
That's a significant kind of award, which is awarded by, which is kind of, what we say, the application and everything is reviewed and voted by the peers and colleagues of my industry, rather than me paying $50 or $100 to buy that
To
award.
get the award, right?
That's right. So I think those are, that particular thing is, very, very special for me. That it just speaks to what I've done, and which also was noticed by a lot of my peers and colleagues.
Mhm. Great.
Amazing achievement, and it's really, how much hard work you have to put in to get that award,
Absolutely.
right? So yep, it's not easy yeah, it's easy to say I got an award, but yes, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of
Absolutely.
years of work to get that award. So well done, great. So
Thank you.
what's your so tell me, what is your success mantra to achieve all these, so
Oh,
whatever the achievements you have done are so great achievements, and it's not easy for anyone to get it, that in Australia especially. So what are your success mantra, and could you please share with our audience?
sure. I think there is no other thing than working really hard on what you are doing right now. So you got to know your stuff. You got to have built a body of knowledge, some real clear evidence of the work that you have done and of the results that you have produced. Like that needs to be there. Like without, you need to have that substance, and in order for you to have that substance, you got to either study hard, either work hard, either you have to really kind of experiment with a lot of things to make sure that you are, when you talk to people, that is coming from a place of experience and some validity, rather than, because I see many people who are might have just graduated and they talk about those things that even people with 20 years of experience can't even talk, right? So you need to have that strong, strong knowledge base.
Yeah.
Second one is that you also need to promote it, promote yourself too. So I have consistently promoted myself, but I also consistently promote myself, not just to anybody, but also especially to people that matters. So
Mm.
within the sector that I work in, I need to make sure that I'm one of the sought after person. I need to,
Mm.
that people, when they think about this, they always think about me. I need to make sure that I promote myself.
Mm.
Third is that building a really diverse network,
Yeah.
not just large network, but quite diverse network. That means that I could know somebody who is works in cybersecurity, nothing to do with my work, but also I could know somebody who is a financial planner too. So I've deliberately built a very, very diverse network, Krunal, over a period of time. So these are the kind of three things that I would say that makes a big difference.
Excellent. No, wonderful. So, it's a lot to learn from you, Miss Nashad. Like
Thank you.
you got a well of knowledge.
I wish that this podcast I can continue for like 10 hours or so. But let's talk about goal setting. So when you just
Sure.
mentioned that people, when they get in Australia, the first thing is like they have to set goals. Some recent graduate can talk about many other things where because they set it the goals. So as a new migrant, how you set your goals when you are in the country? You are okay. You got a job and everything,
Yeah.
but now you're
Yeah.
thinking to progress or scale your career and grow yourself in Australia. So, what should be the goal strategy and how you set the goals? So, first question is that.
Yeah. So I think you can have a kind of a short-term goal that look next 6 to 12 months, this is what I want to achieve, right? Beyond that, I think it's very difficult in my view to have, or then you can have a 10-15 year goal or something that, let's say that I want to have a business that makes $1 million, for
Mm,
example, right?
mm, mm,
Down in 5 years or something.
mm.
But my view is that the goal setting philosophy is also meant that you are considering everything outside of it will also remain exactly the same, that the outside factors do not change. I think we need to have a malleable strategy. That means that I will check what goes on. I can predict for next 6 months.
Mm, mm.
Who, like when we went to India in February of 2020, we did not know that we
The
will
COVID
only
is
return after 3 months. How
right.
many of us planned 2020 in a grander scale, and how many
Oh,
of us could not? We were not, right? Now there are so many uh, external factors that play the part in that, and you don't want to be disappointed as well. So
mm,
I'm a believer of that. You can have a short term goal and you can have a huge long term goal,
mm,
and then you keep checking whether that you've achieved that or not. A lot
mm,
of people work different. A lot of people write their goals somewhere, and then they measure. That also is fine. There is no right or the wrong strategy, Krunal, here. Whatever works for you. If it
Do it.
is, look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Mm.
There's
Mm.
nothing else. That's what I would say. If it isn't broken, don't fix it. If the resume is working, don't change it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If your
Perfect.
strategy is working, don't change it.
Mm. Mm. Exactly. Exactly. Very, very deep. Very deep. Thank you.
So when we come to Australia and when we try and do all these activities and growth and jobs and families and all that, we miss out few things, which is having fun or having, taking care of your health. So what's
Yeah,
your take on that?
absolutely. I think in the doodle that I drew, there's one thing what we call that we got to change our language from work-life balance. If
Mm.
that's what you are kind of alluding to
Mm.
work-life blend. That we
Mm.
don't balance, we can never achieve balance. It's
Yeah.
difficult, and balance itself meant that you're walking on a very tight rope.
Mm.
I think integration or blend, that I'm going to have a work life blend. That means the blend looks different every day. It's not
Mm.
the same every day.
Right.
It's like you wake up and you want to have a strawberry smoothie, and day after that you say mango smoothie, right?
Mm.
So you
Mm.
have different blend altogether. So you make sure that you have work life blend rather than work life balance. It's
Mm.
incredibly important. And given the what you talk about, the increasing pressure on ourselves about cost of living, to housing, to everything else, I think it is becoming increasingly important that you have kind of a blend which works for you. So in Australia, I think I've always believed that people always have got either a volunteering thing, either they do sports, either they do some activity, most of them, to keep themselves engaged outside of work.
Mm.
Either
Mm.
they are part of a school council or something where they go and attend the meeting every month, or either they go and volunteer at a local community house, or they are going to soup kitchen, or they
Mm.
go and play soccer every week. So people are always involved into something. It takes your mind off. Secondly, that also brings energy into the work that you do too.
Mm.
Right? So as after the COVID, I think self-care is becoming a hugely important thing.
Yeah.
It is said that you got to look after yourself. It's like having an oxygen first on yourself and then giving it to
Then putting
someone next to
first.
you.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you for that. That's really a great tip. And what's your extracurricular activity that you do to keep yourself refreshed?
So one of the things that I do is that, as I said, I always take an extra interest in my son's cricketing career.
Yeah.
So I take him out. That's my time with him.
Mhm.
But also that I also enjoy cricket. So that's also my time for me to really kind of I forget everything else when I'm teaching him or I'm coaching him or I'm just watching him train and everything, taking my dog out or even doodling the work that I do on the sides. It's those 15, 20 minutes or half an hour that I draw. I forget everything else. I'm just purely
Good.
focused on that one. And I love that. I draw every day.
Mm.
Every day I'm bringing either a same concept or different concepts, and I'm trying different things. And I find themselves that I'm quite creative around it. And I'm always thinking of, if I feel that I'm too much kind of stressed out about work, I always have a lot of books that I pick up an idea, and then I kind of start to work on this. So that's my time out. I
Mm.
work on creative stuff at that time.
Great. Great. And see that your son playing cricket. Do you play cricket or it
No,
just
I
you
used to.
watch?
I think
You.
coaching him is enough for me right now.
All right. Okay, so we have done with a lot of questions. So I just wanted to do a rapid fire round now.
Yeah.
Uh, just try to keep the answer short and quick, if possible. All right. So ready?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. So what's your favorite Aussie slang word or a phrase?
Fair income.
Fair income. Okay, could you please, I know that, but what is that? Could you please explain that for our audience?
It's taken in different contexts. So, somebody says, "Oh, that's a fair income." That means that's amazing, great.
Yeah,
Sometimes, people say, "Oh, that's very normal." So I think it's used in a context, but it's fair income is probably
pretty
the
popular.
pretty popular and something that you can never make out. What do you mean by fair income?
Yeah. So it's yeah, similar word. Okay. All right. So what is your favorite Aussie food?
Chicken parmigiana.
Oh, wow, nice. And what's your favorite best beach in Australia?
Well, I'm not really an outdoorish person as such, but I
Right.
think the lawn beach that I went to, or even we went to Cairns, but I think lawn was beautiful. It's
Almost
still
better.
beautiful,
Yeah,
lawn. Yeah.
it is. Yeah, yep, perfect. And what is your favorite, sunrise at the beach or hiking in the mountains?
Mountain sounds very scary, so I think sunrise at the beach is
Sunrise,
fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's better. Yes, yes. Name a favorite place in Australia which you haven't visited yet, but there is definitely a plan to go there.
Uluru.
Uluru, yes, Uluru. Could you please tell more about to that about
Obviously,
to our audience?
Uluru is in Northern Territory. It is one of the most important indigenous site, and a lot of people have traveled there. In fact, one of our close friends went for around in April time. That I find they drove from here like a road trip, and I think
Wow,
would that's really on the
something
bucket
you
list to
want to
go to
go. Yeah,
Uluru. Yes,
perfect, perfect, and it's a perfect place to go.
yes,
That's great. All right, Tim Tam or Vegemite?
Tim Tam.
Tim. Your favorite event or festival you want to attend in Australia?
I think Boxing Day taste is always favorite. There
Always
is
there.
nothing.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah, nothing
always
like that.
there. I'm always there, regardless which country is playing. Last year it was South Africa. This time is Pakistan.
Yeah,
But me and my son will always be there on
always
Boxing
be
Day.
there.
That's like a tradition. Yes.
Are you MCG member yet?
No, not right now.
Not yet. Okay.
No.
Right. It's can you tell people about it?
Well, obviously Boxing Day is the 26th of December, which is, I think it is based on once you get your gifts and then you kind of
Go to watch
unbox that.
cricket.
But that's also one of the shopping days, one of the biggest shopping days in Australian calendar, and that's the day Australia plays its test match starts in MCG, and which is it's like AFL final, right? It's like
Yeah.
regardless of it's 70,000 80,000 people, first
That's-
2 hours, regardless of who's playing, it's just absolutely electric
mm.
experience, and I love
But
that.
we found that it's really hard to get the tickets. How you, if you are not
No,
a member,
no,
how
no,
you
no.
manage to buy the tickets for
No,
Boxing Day
it's
cricket?
not. It's not. It's quite easy. It's not.
Is
It's
it?
not. No, obviously, it depends on how much money do you want to spend.
All right.
What
Yeah.
happens is that you you start with the top floor or the third tier, and then by the afternoon people start to leave because not everyone's there for the whole day, and
Hmm.
then it becomes a little relaxing. So you can actually watch the game. Last time I know we went to the ground floor and we watched Australia and South Africa for after the tea, sitting down.
Oh,
Very close game, right?
wow.
But
Wow.
we had to start on the top.
On the
After
top,
the
right.
afternoon, people leave because they come there only for a few hours. Have
Few hours, right.
beer, have lunch, have some time with their friends, and then go home.
Right, right. So yeah, excellent. Good tip. Okay, next time I'll see you there on Boxing Day. Okay, good.
So, share a phrase or a word in your native language that describe your Australian journey.
Ascharya-chakit,
Okay. And could you please
surprising.
explain that?
So it's a surprising. It's Australia is full of surprises, and as a
Surprise.
migrant, you don't come here with a manual, right? That this is how
Mhm.
it's going to turn out.
Yeah,
But I think it's quite surprising.
excellent. Beautiful word. Thank you. And share a uniquely Australian trait or habit that you have picked up after coming to Australia.
Drinking coffee
Uh,
without and with less sugar too, with
yes, less
less
sugar.
sugar.
Maybe
So
no
I think
sugar. Yes.
that's
Yeah.
the thing that I picked up. Like it's
I don't
like
know.
Yeah, 9 o'clock and people are going for coffees. Yeah, why not? You
Why not?
join.
Let's go. Yes. And then Australians are like somehow obsessed with the bitter taste. In the
Yes,
morning
that's
it's
correct.
coffee, in the evening it's beer or
Vegemite.
scotch. Yeah, Vegemite. And it's all that. So I don't know, somewhere obsession for the bitter taste, like so
Yes.
yeah. That's what Australia is. So can you share a mate moment when you feel a true mateship in Australia?
Sure. So I think I met Caroline Brown, the one that I did couple of, one, I did the LinkedIn live show with her. We met first time when back in 2009 or 10. And since then, we've become really, really close
That's
friends
great.
and also collaborator as well.
Mm, excellent, excellent. Describe a hobby or an activity that you have, taken up since you came to Australia, but you never thought to be doing it.
I think doodling is probably, I would say,
Doodling?
I've never
Yes.
thought
Yeah.
of,
Never
never
thought
in
of.
my wildest life. But also, yes, another thing is cooking too. That I
Oh,
picked up
okay.
cooking as a hobby, as a downtime for me for not for too long, but last 5 to 6 years now.
Hmm, hmm.
Yeah.
Right. For me, it's podcasting. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you have a chance to invite an Aussie celebrity for a dinner, who you invite?
Difficult.
Difficult.
Yeah, but let
You can have
me.
two. That's okay.
Okay. I think I'll definitely invite what we say, the cricketer. Well, Pat Cummins is probably one I would invite for my son because he's a big fan of him.
Yeah. Wow.
And I would then would like to invite Anthony Albanese.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. Not ScoMo.
No, I'm not a big fan of Scoma.
All right. Yeah, you already answered this question, but still I will ask cricket or footy?
I think cricket, yes.
Cricket, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Share a funniest or most awkward moment when you're trying to explain something in your native language to an Aussie.
I think it happens all the time. There are so many jokes that I know, and I've got sense of humor too.
Yeah.
But it's just difficult to translate that into English
Yeah.
to really kind of like, one of the
And
thing
get
is
that same vibe, right?
same vibe, right? So, in if you remember in the book launch, I shared a kind of a couplet of Urdu, which was
Yeah.
written, but it still does not have that punch
Punch,
that
yeah.
that
Yeah.
comes from speaking in Hindi.
Hmm.
Then speaking the same, like translating that same, it
English.
doesn't give me that kind
Yeah.
of punch.
No, no, it doesn't. And see, so that's the beauty of each language, right? So yeah, yeah,
That's right.
yeah. They
That's
have
right. Yeah.
their own dominancy in that particular words,
Exactly.
and yeah, yeah, great. Describe your reaction first time when you saw a kangaroo in wild.
Ah, I think how small they were because I went to Phillip Island and that's why they were small ones, not a big ones.
Not the huge ones,
And
yeah.
I found out how small they were.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm. All right. So beach volleyball or surfing lessons?
none of them.
None of the
I can't.
You're like me, you're not physical person, right?
No,
I,
no,
I
no,
don't
no,
want
no.
to hustle myself doing something. No, I better like half an hour walk is way, that's an extreme I can do.
10,000 step are hardly doing it. So yeah, that's it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Share a memorable only in Australia moment.
Only in Australia moment. Memorable. I think first time when I caught was by police for having a phone in my hand and driving. There is a memory because I never cared about that back in India. So that was a memorable moment. I popped a big fine for
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
but if I have a chance to list this moment for you only in Australia, you get a car on your first day at work. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's for me.
that's correct.
Best road trip you have taken?
Adelaide.
Adelaide from
Adelaide
Melbourne.
was beautiful. Yeah.
Mm. And the journey, like roads and everything, was good.
Everything was just absolutely beautiful. We went inland, but it was still beautiful. We went 2 times, but that was really beautiful journey.
Great, amazing. And if you have a choice to send some souvenirs or gift to back home to friend or family, what that would be?
Wine.
Wine, yes.
I've taken wines. I've taken wine. And yeah,
Yep, that's good. So, and your favorite wine?
I don't drink.
You don't drink?
No,
Wow.
no.
Oh, wow. And never
Yeah.
tried?
No, I'm not non-alcoholic. I've never drunk,
Never
and no
drink, no
alcohol.
smoke, no nothing.
No
Great.
smoke, no alcohol. Yeah.
Oh, so you are,
You've been a sober person forever, right? Great,
That's right.
amazing, and that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. People regret doing it later on, but yes, thank
That's
you,
right. Yeah,
thank you for
yeah,
that. Thanks.
yeah.
So, thanks a lot. My questions are over. Now we are going towards the conclusion part, and this is the question where I ask this question to all of my guests. So,
Sure.
looking at this current scenario, immigration and all that, and whatever your experience is as an immigrant in Australia, if you have a power and if you have a capacity to change something into the immigration system, what that one or two things that you want to change?
I think not particularly immigration system, but once they arrive, I want the employers to be more welcoming and to be more considerate of the diverse skills and the unique skills that migrants bring in Australian economy.
mm,
I think that's what I would want. I can see that if I'm able to link some
mm,
of those migrants to employers or really educate employers around the importance of taking migrants, that's what I would change.
that's great. That's really a change what every
Yes.
migrant
Yeah.
need. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And what is one thing in Australia that you love the most and one thing that you want to change?
I love the most is the friendliness that I find around me. I love it's very quite easygoing. It's not
Mm.
difficult. And what's the second question?
And what one thing that you want to change?
Yeah, so I think what I want to change is to kind of ask people to think bigger and be
Mm,
more innovative or accept innovation. That I find that it's difficult that your innovation will not be kind of accepted as quickly as it happens in the other parts of the world. Yeah,
space, yeah,
yeah.
right, absolutely right. Great. And what is the most valuable lesson you learned after coming to Australia?
I think most valuable lesson is kind of looking after yourself, looking after the decisions that because I was protected for many years from taking
Mm,
decisions or
mm,
the wrong decisions.
mm,
But I think that's my values. I take my decisions more seriously now.
mm.
Earlier, I would just take those decisions. So I think that's what I've learned about myself.
Great, amazing, and that's a valuable lesson. And the last question for today's podcast is, what, according to you, what is the ultimate key of happiness?
Ultimate key of happiness is do what you love. You know,
Great. Yeah.
like really do what you love
Do what you love.
or love what you do.
Mm,
I think that's what will because you got to find home in
mm,
something that you do,
yeah.
and you can rest of the things will still be crap around you. It can never be perfect. The cost of living or this and that will always be there. But if you find something that you enjoy, I think you
Mm,
can draw your energy from there to deal with other crap around you.
mm, mm. You're right, absolutely right. That's great. Thank you. And yeah, my questions are over. Do you want to say any particular message to all the migrants who are listening to our podcast?
Yeah. No, Krunal, thank you again for the opportunity. I would not want to say a lot. Only thing I would say is that be optimistic around if you're traveling here, if you're already here, if you're struggling, keep the faith. Don't lose whatever that you're putting in will never go to waste, in my view.
That's great. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Naishad.
Pleasure.
Thanks for joining. And it was amazing podcast. And I think our listeners will get a lot of value out of this podcast. Your extreme guidance is valuable to everybody who is watching this podcast. And thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
allocating time, valuable time out of your busy schedule. Thanks once again.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.